And welcome live to the LV Home Experts Podcast. This is where we talk about real estate financing and the Las Vegas housing market. If this is your first time tuning into this channel, my name is Chakits Krulsawat, licensed real estate agent out here in Las Vegas, Nevada. So on today's episode, we are going to talk about investing in multifamily out here in Las Vegas. We haven't talked about this for some time. And we have a very special guest, Catherine Hyde. She specializes in a multifamily, also commercial as well, and also residential. Catherine, how's everything going today?
Hey, how are you? Everything's great.
I'm doing great.
Ready for Thanksgiving?
Are you ready?
Not really. We're buying dinner.
So where are you spending Thanksgiving?
Home. I'm picking up dinner from this great local place.
Okay.
And I'm very excited. Food so far has been great.
Oh, you want to put that mic just a little bit closer? Tilt it. There you go. Kind of tilt it down a little bit. There you go. Maybe I should have hosted this a little bit better, right? Prepared you a little bit better for it. So I do apologize. So you're buying dinner. You're not making that turkey or anything, right?
Well, I'm here. I could be at home.
Okay. So you are a trooper, and I just want to say thank you for taking the opportunity on coming out here. You didn't have to be out here.
My pleasure.
So I want to get right into it because I think this is a segment that we haven't, spoke about for some time, is a multifamily. And I do get calls periodically where, people are just getting into the game, and the first thing that, they do is like, hey, I want to get into multifamily, but it's a whole different dynamic when you get into the investment game, right? Because it really just comes down to like numbers. But I want to start off with, who you are, so that way the audience, really can, connect with you. And I think that this is important. So when did you actually get into real estate?
I got into real estate shortly after I turned 18. This was my side gig.
Oh, wow.
And I've been doing it ever since. I wanted to be an architect, loved everything, design, residential, custom homes. And this became my career just by being a natural evolution of everything real estate.
Yeah.
So I've been a contractor. I've developed properties. I've owned multifamily. I've sold, held nice luxury rentals. So I've done a little bit of everything in real estate. And it's been really fun. I like houses.
So is your primary niche into like single family residence or mostly multifamily?
So I have a team, and I'm going to say the majority of our business is with investors.
Okay.
So it's anyone looking to invest in real estate, and that includes multifamily owners, whether it's an FHA owner-occupant owner or someone who has a portfolio of a variety of units. It could be someone who's buying land for holding, just for later. Like I said, we've done joint ventures with high-end residential development. Mm-hmm. So it's really anything real estate-focused investments. Okay.
So basically, it doesn't really matter, what niche you're in. You still... as long as it's investing, right, in real estate, is that what you're saying?
And like you said, it's numbers, right? You spend a little bit of money, you expect a certain return, you try to verify your numbers, your assumptions with data, and go at it.
Okay. And I believe you have a master's degree or a degree or something like that?
I don't.
Oh,
I'm
I thought
a
you
dropout.
did. Oh, you're a dropout. But you're a good one.
School. Yeah, no.
So what do you do for fun other than selling investment properties?
I like to travel.
Do you really?
Yes. I like to travel. I like to eat.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. And you got 2 kids that are real estate agents too, right? I believe.
I do. I have a small team. I work with my children, and then we have 3 other agents that work with us. They grew up around real estate. Okay. This career afforded me the time to be with them whenever they were little and in and out of school. And luckily, as it turned out, they like it, and we still get to hang out. Okay.
So I want to get into what's going on right now in the Las Vegas housing market. What do you see is going on?
As it pertains to investments?
Yes.
I see a lot of opportunity coming our way. The fact that interest rates are high, the fact that we have doom and gloom type of news with inflation has sadly taken a lot of individuals out of the market. I believe as a metro area, 60% of renters who could have purchased a home are now out of the market.
Yeah.
And the flip side to that is that as an investor, times are good. Here's your opportunity to purchase something and capitalize on providing housing to all of those individuals who now have to rent.
So is it a good time to get started now? Because you just mentioned, it's coming, I guess, right?
No, it's happening.
It's happening right now. So is it right now a good time to purchase an investment?
It's a good time whenever the numbers make sense.
So that's what it just really comes down to. It doesn't matter if it's a top of the market or the bottom of the market, as long as the numbers make sense.
Absolutely. And depending on the type of asset that you're going to purchase, we would review that. So for example, for multifamily, today you have less competition. Today we have a nice, healthy 45-day inventory of multifamily. There's maybe 35, 40 buildings on the market right now.
So for all the newbies, let's identify what is multifamily first.
Multifamily is a building that can house 2 to 4 residences in one building. So it's an apartment building, a duplex, a triplex, a fourplex. Those are the most commonly assets that a first-time investor could purchase. Of course, there are larger 5+ unit parcels. Those require different types of financing that are usually available for more experienced investors with a little bit more cash. But the idea is that you purchase as many doors as possible to rent out.
Okay. So anything above, 5 units and above becomes commercial, and the financing is completely different, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What's the difference between the financing? Because sometimes people want to get into it and they think they can get into, a 20 unit, but it's a whole different ballgame versus 4 units. And if somebody's just getting started, is that where you would start them off? Is 4 units or a triplex or duplex? Like, where do you start them off?
It depends on what they have available to them. So if it's an investor, a couple of people who have a couple $100,000, they have more opportunity than someone who has less than $50,000.
Yeah.
We could check their situation with our lending partners. They could very well form an LLC and finance the property based on the property's ability to generate income. So they're not really the ones qualifying for the mortgage. It's a commercial loan, so it may not be personally guaranteed. It may. If it's a brand new LLC, then we would ideally they would have the credit scores, the FICOs, to be able to back and support those type of notes. But if it's someone who is trying this for the first time, maybe this is the very first property they're going to purchase, FHA financing is a great opportunity. They could purchase a multifamily building. I believe the Clark County limits are over $800,000 on a 4 unit. Yeah. With 3.5% down. That's like $25,000.
Talking about that, I actually had one of my clients, this is probably like years ago, and he wanted to get into the investment game. He was young. I think he was like only 20 at the time. And he was an IT guy just getting started, making about like 50-something thousand a year. And he was like, I would like to buy a single family residence as an investment property. But after kind of like sitting down with him and, identifying what his goals are, like he wanted to like really get into the game. So I exposed him to say, hey, or to see multifamily. And it was a 4 unit, because on a 4 unit, you can go traditional financing. We did the FHA 3.5% down at that time. And he pretty much did a house hacking, which means he lived in 1 unit, all the 3 units, paid for his mortgage. He made a couple $100 more, and he was happy with that. And a couple months later, he got transferred to a different city. And, he's sitting on probably about like $300,000 worth of equity. And now he's cash flowing $800 a month. And, for me, that's just a great way to, get started, especially like if you're single, you're going to utilize the FHA loan. And that's what he did. He took advantage of that, right? Because a lot of people will go out and, get an FHA loan, but end up buying a single family residence thinking, hey, this is a great investment property. But I think it really comes down to the individual, what their goals are, right? And this individual, he was able to understand to maximize that loan, and that's what he did. He capitalized on it.
Absolutely, I agree. I think that's really smart. Obviously, the circumstances have to be right. A single individual, it's so much easier to be in an apartment, right? Yeah. You're hardly ever home, you're working. It's a little bit tougher if you have a bigger family, or if, location or school sort of situation. Because remember, these are multifamily apartments. They're not in Summerlin. They're not in the fancy neighborhoods. They are apartments for individuals who need to rent. Yeah. And if you are flexible, it doesn't require a lot of time. You just need to stay in it for a short amount of time. The FHA guidelines require that you have it as your primary residence for that first year. But primary residence is 181 days out of the year.
Mm-hmm. So you also have that mortgage insurance premium. How do you get rid of that?
That can be removed once you achieve 20% equity on the property.
Mm-hmm.
You can refinance the property into a conventional mortgage. If you buy more buildings, you could do portfolio financing. Really, it's getting your foot in the door and getting started.
Okay. So I want to start from the beginning. So if somebody contacts you and says, hey, I'm new at this, haven't bought a home yet, I've got 20% down, let's say $100,000. I want to get into the multifamily game. I want to build cash flowing properties. Like, where do you actually start? Like,
it would be interviewing the prospective buyer and trying to identify their financial situation, what their ability to take this on is.
Yeah.
It's actually going more often than not.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you go FHA, it's going to take 25% down. So that's substantial. The average fourplex is $550,000, $600,000. So, when all's said and done, we're going to need about $150,000. Do you have that? Then you're going to want at least 6 months worth of reserves, savings. So 6 months worth of expenses for the building to have a nice cushion in case there's a major capital improvement to be made. Maybe the roof breaks or, maybe something happens to the sewer line. You want to have some cash. Maybe you have a vacancy. And then really understanding where the properties are, who is the occupant of the property, how to best deal with that occupant, what the rents are today at the property, what to expect. Just making sure that's clear, really going into the proposition with eyes wide open, fully prepared. Part of this is beyond just the down payment, understanding how the financing that you want to take on is going to work out. Is it one of those loans that uses a property to qualify? That would be a DSCR loan. Is it something that has, a prepayment penalty or maybe some sort of insurance premium? Because we might be able to do it with 20% down, but it gets expensive. So figuring out what the interest rate's going to be. At the end of the day, we need to cash flow. The property needs to pay for itself. And you need to ideally be saving, having a little bit of profit every month so that at the end of the year, you not only have the appreciation, but a little bit of cash.
Catherine, can you just speak right into the mic? We've got a couple of people just complaining a little bit. Like, you got to talk right into They're like, I can't hear her. She needs to speak into the mic. Sorry about that, guys. There you go.
Okay. Is that better?
Yeah, that's perfect. So you mentioned cash flow. What kind of cash flow am I actually making?
Today, it's going to be really modest. Most of the properties that are on the market right now are collecting rents from that were entered into a year or two ago. So a 2-bedroom apartment is going to probably collect $1,100 per unit. But today's market can support maybe $1,300 on that particular property. With today's interest rates, you're probably going on a $550,000 building with 25% down. Your payment with taxes and insurance and property management, all in, everything that you have to spend to rent this property, to take some reserves, to allow for some vacancy, you're going to be spending about $3,800. So with that example, if each property is collecting $1,100 and you're spending $38, we're only cash flowing $600-$700 a month, right?
Yeah.
But if you put in some sweat equity and slowly bring up the rents to market value, so let's say $1,300, you just doubled your return. Yeah. Every month. So now maybe that takes you 6 months to get to that point. So on your first year, you make $9,000. On your second year, you're easily doubling that.
Let's talk about sweat equity. What do you mean by that, sweat equity?
It's the work that you do by the sweat of your brow to make your property cash flow, whether that is making the property, modernizing it with today's amenities, whether you change the carpet to vinyl flooring, or whether that's simply something as simple as increasing rents. It's you talking to someone, making sure they're happy, signing a new lease, getting your property to perform as it's expected to.
So you're going in and rehabbing the property to bring it up to the current comps in the area for rents? Is that what you're saying? To force the rents up?
Maybe. Sometimes you can.
Sometimes you don't need to.
Sometimes you don't need to rehab the property at all because you're bringing the property up to the standard of the property.
So that's where you come in, because there's no sense of putting $10,000 into a unit knowing that your rent's already low based upon the condition it currently states or where it's at, you can automatically raise the rents, right?
You can, very often.
Yeah.
You absolutely can. Property management, so the property manager is the individual who actually deals with the tenant, deals with the condition of the property, signs the leases, makes sure that the property is rented out at market values. You can be your own property manager, or you can hire someone. But that's key for the property to perform to the best of its ability. You have to make sure that you're charging fair market value for what you're delivering. And you have to make sure that your asset, your building, is the best building it can be for what you're able to charge for it. So you don't want to over improve the building.
Okay.
And you also don't want to undercharge for what you're providing. So there's that sweet spot. That work, that effort, that research, that on-site visit, whether it's you or your property manager, that's the equity that you're going to build. That's the work that you're going to put in.
Now, I've got a couple investment properties, and I was thinking about getting, some multifamily as well. And, I spoke to a couple of property managers. The location of these, duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes, a lot of property managers don't want to touch it. Why is that?
Because they don't know them.
Okay.
You have to have a property manager that knows how to manage that property type, the asset class, and how to deal with the tenant. And by that, I mean, you can't have a luxury property manager, someone who's going to rent you a big party house in a country club, manage an affordable apartment. It's two different beasts, right? One is a totally different consumer than the other. So you have to have someone who knows how to communicate with the tenant, how to collect payments from the tenant. You want to provide good service to your tenant. They are your client.
Yeah.
So they need to have a unit that is working. They need to be able to contact them the property manager, if something goes wrong. And they're not necessarily a sophisticated tenant. They might be working 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
They need quick response. They're not going to call you from 9 to 5, and not on your lunch hour. So it's really working with your client to make sure that you're providing good service for which they're happy to pay you fair market rents on.
So the service that you provide, you educate the clients, right? You walk them through the process. You help analyze the deal. You get them into the property. So now what? Is there a property management that you work with, or do you have that service?
There are a few property managements that we work with regularly that we refer our clients to. I would want the client to interview the property managers. There has to be good synergy between the owner and the property manager, see who they like to work with. And the property managers that I refer, we've used in the past, our clients have given good reviews for. They know the product that the client is buying. So if the client is buying a different product, it requires a special type of property manager.
Okay.
So you have to have the right person for the job.
Now, talking about like property management, what are like the fees and the things that you should be looking out for when it comes to these type of properties?
I like to budget 10% of your gross rents to go towards property management. That fee is completely negotiable. It's between you and the property manager. I've seen fees as low as 5% per month, but I believe you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
So maybe for a discounted rate, you are taking on some of the work yourself. It's, again, whatever you're open to, as long as you understand what you're getting into. It's not just about saving $40 a month.
Okay.
Because 10% of rent is that much. It's very, very little percentage-wise.
Now, these multifamily, right? What kind of people are you dealing with as far as like income level?
For the resident?
Yeah.
The tenant, again, it depends on where the property is located, how much they can afford. But usually, if rent is... in Las Vegas, rent is about 35% of your household income.
Yeah.
So if rent is going to be $1,300, $1,500, that's a household that makes $50,000 to $60,000 a year. That's most of the inventory that we see. That would be a Class C property. It's a tenant who has to rent. It's a tenant who's unlikely to be able to purchase a home of their own. There's Class B. That's a tenant who has a little bit more mobility. They'll likely purchase a property of their own in the near future. And then there's Class A, who's an individual who rents by choice. That's your luxury apartment tenant, what you see in the fancier neighborhoods, the apartment complexes that offer the most amenities and so forth.
And how much are these things actually going for right now for multifamily, for like a 4-unit?
Again, a Class C is going to be $550 to $650. A Class B is going to be high 7s to low 9s, and then a Class A in a neighborhood that you would recognize by name, something that's in close proximity to SUMMERLIN, a Green Valley, and Anthem. Those are going to be right around the $1 million, $1.2 million mark.
Now, some of these multifamily, I've noticed they have on the MLS, especially on the west side, near Summerlin or the southwest, they're more like townhomes. Mm-hmm. But there's like an attachment to the property where if you do buy it, you're required to use their property management. Have you seen those before?
Yes.
Kind of explain, what is that all about?
It works just like when you purchase in the Southwest or in those nicer areas. There's associations and rules to keep the overall look of the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Same thing. So it sometimes is called an association. Sometimes it's called a community management fee. The difference is one is an association, you have a voting right. Yeah. On a community management agreement, the rules are part of the deed. So you're always going to have to follow them. You don't get to vote certain rules in or out. It comes with the deed. Whereas in an association, the board members could make motions to change those things. You have to pay whatever that assessment is, no matter what. It's just like an association does. And depending on the association or community rules, you may be required to use their own property manager. When you do, it's someone that they've hired in-house. They use it to increase rents, maintain the community to a standard across all buildings. It works out in the end. The property is being managed. Yeah. It comes down to the type of property that you want to own. If you care that the grass is mowed and it's the perfect length, then that might be worth it. If the association fee offsets your expenses, it pays your utilities, it pays for the maintenance or the insurance or something. It offsets an expense you're otherwise going to have to incur. So again, it's all about reviewing what's covered by that fee, whether it's worth that cost to you, mm-hmm. and making a decision.
And what type of returns can I actually get in today's market right now?
You can achieve 7 to 8% capitalization returns today.
Oh, really?
Once you stabilize the rents. Most of what you'll be purchasing, though, is going to be making 4% caps on average. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, depending on the asset class. But if you buy it at 4, you put in your sweat equity, and then you're realizing 7, 8 cap more, depending on how aggressive you are on making the property cash flow. Yeah, that's all your sweat equity.
So basically, if you want a great deal, you're going to have to put in that sweat equity.
Of course. If the seller did the work for you, they're going to want to get paid for it, which in turn is going to lower your ROI.
Now, can you kind of explain what the cap rate is for the audience? And you just mentioned, ROI, the abbreviation. Can you
So capitalization rate, cap rate for short, is what we use to compare one building against another. So it could mm-hmm. be a building down behind the stratosphere compared to a building near Summerlin. Yeah. Right? So they're very different properties. The way I compare them is how the return is going to perform. Dollar for dollar, which one's going to perform better. So it's a way to make them all, put them on an even playing field so that I can analyze how they're going to perform. And the way we calculate that is your net operating income over mm-hmm. your purchase price.
Yeah.
Right? So the higher the cap rate, the bigger your return is, the bigger percentage that you're earning on your money.
Mm-hmm. Now that's going to be more for commercial, correct? Is that how they really analyze it?
No, it's math. It applies for, it's a way for us to measure the profitability of any property. I can measure it on a house.
Well, I meant coming from a perspective as far as the appraisal, because 4 units, a properties are really only worth what it's going to appraise for. But I noticed with multifamily, 5 units and above, they typically use the cap rate to determine the value of the property.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Actually, residential appraisers use both rents, condition of property, and comparables to determine value. Mm-hmm. It's easier to go with the recent sale comparison method just because there's more available nearby. But if your property, if we both own 2 buildings in the same neighborhood and our comps are right around the 500s, but you're collecting $1,500 a month per apartment and I'm collecting $900, yours is worth more. Yours performs better. You have to remember these are vehicles for investment. Yeah. And especially if you're going to rely on financing, whether that's an investment type loan like a DSCR or an FHA mortgage, they're calculating how easy it's going to be for you to make that monthly payment. Mm-hmm. And it's directly related to the rents being collected.
Well, you know what? That was a lot of great information, guys. That's kind of half of our halftime right there. I don't know if that made sense, half of our halftime, but we will be right back with a commercial break.
Does your house look like and have you been considering remodeling your home for some time now? Well, if you love real estate like I do and appreciate the attention to detail in the craftsmanship required to build a remodel or a gorgeous home, then I got the perfect company for you. Guys, I highly recommend Design Zone Remodeling. They are a stellar company that will turn your outdated home into your own personal sanctuary. They specialize in bathroom remodels, kitchen remodels, and full house remodels. Design Zone Remodeling has a reputation for excellent workmanship, competitive fees, and being able to offer a wide range of services and deliver the outstanding results to their clients. I use Design Zone Remodeling on my personal properties. Give Design Zone Remodeling a call today at 725-223-0871 or visit their website at designzoneremodeling.com to request a free consultation today.
All right, and we are back live. I'm Chakits Krulsawat with Simply Vegas, licensed real estate agent out here in Las Vegas, Nevada. So today we got a very special guest, Catherine Hyde. She specializes in multifamily. So if you guys are looking to get into the investment game, she's the one to talk to. That's right. She will analyze your deal. She will give you the return that you guys are looking for. So we're going to jump right back into it. A lot of great information that you are providing when it comes to multifamily. I want to jump right back into it. So, like, what's going on right now? How many properties do we have? I mean, what's that market looking like right now?
Their interest rates, the economy, inflation, no question, has had impact on demand for the product. However, things to note is that the labor market is doing, it's good. It's supporting demand for the apartments that are currently available.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, we actually don't have enough apartments available. If you look at everything that's happening in the Valley, there's all of this construction happening, and we have a shortage of housing in Las Vegas. And this shortage is expected to last for the next 5 to 10 years.
Really?
So putting the current economic situation aside, we still have to, even if things were sunny skies, we still have a shortage of housing. So that's what created all of this demand. It was the best performing real estate asset class for the past few years. Multifamily has been. So knowing that there won't be enough supply of housing for the next decade only supports the rent growth and appreciation of these properties. So going back to, is today the right time to buy? Yes, if you're banking on this, if you're going to go on long-term holds, knowing that there isn't enough of this and it's a limited resource, it should appreciate. Knowing that rent will be supported, rent increases will be supported moving forward. Yes, it makes sense. What we have to be very cognizant of is that over the past year, rent increased by like 22%. That's not sustainable. It was fantastic, right? We all enjoyed it, but it can't happen year over year. It's just, it can't continue on forever. So this is good. The fact that things are slowing down is fantastic. It's going to stabilize the market. Everybody can bring their rents up. We can have a nice appreciation of 3% a year, which is very, very conservative, but this only supports the value of our property. Now, single families, right? All of that 60% of renters who can no longer purchase that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
They still have to live somewhere. If they wanted to buy a house, they're going to want to probably rent a house. And right now, with interest rates, there's less buyers, which means for an investor, there's great opportunities. So a lot of our multifamily customers are now looking at building residential portfolios where we just purchased homes. We assemble them all together. We can get financing for a package of several homes, one loan for several properties, and we analyze it the same way. It's based on how much rent is going to come and how much expenses you're going to have.
So do you have a higher cap rate or return on investment on, detached single family versus a fourplex?
Historically, single family performs slightly less than multifamily.
But future equity position, you probably have a greater gain, right, for appreciation?
You do, because you're going to have a greater pool of buyers later. When there are more buyers, more people are willing to buy a single family than a multifamily.
But can't that be a little bit dangerous because now you're buying based upon speculation?
You are buying based on future demand for the housing. But like we just said, housing is not sufficient for the growth that we're having.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as the labor market remains at the levels there it is, as long as we don't have negative migration, the migration from Western states to Las Vegas bolsters our economy.
Yeah.
As long as the work from home trends continue, right now, like only 43% have gone back to the office. So that those trends are increasing the demand for renting a house. So all of those things are supporting and guarding you against the riskier aspects of speculation.
Yeah.
There are economists who study the risk factors for various major metro areas, and we're actually a relatively safe place to invest. We have strong infrastructure. We have favorable politics. All of those, our cost of living is still low, even with all our increases. So they all support.
Feels high to me, though.
It is definitely changing. I felt it myself. But it is nothing compared to San Francisco Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when a starter home there is $1 million.
Yeah.
You know, we're far less than half that. So that's still, it changes. So opportunities for an investor to purchase a home, something that's less scary, because you could move into a house. You may be more willing to move into the house if you decide to keep it. You could get deals from builders. It's the end of the year. Builders want to sell. Their job is to sell those homes. There's no emotional attachment to that house. So there's good opportunity to get something and start building some equity.
With the renter demographics, do they normally tend to flock more towards single-family residence, detached, or multifamily?
So that has been changing. Most
Really?
of the, right now, the demographic that's going to flock towards a single family is going to be anyone from a millennial to a blue-collar worker. They're going to make $70,000 plus a year.
Yeah.
And they're looking for a house because they might need space for a pet. They might need larger work from home spaces or more rooms to be able to have a home office. The fact that they are making decent income but are currently priced out of home buying only reinforces their need for wanting to enjoy a little bit more space or any other amenities. It could be home smart features. It could be something that's a little bit more user friendly, like I said earlier, vinyl flooring, garages, things that these individuals may want to enjoy because they have a fancier car, because they have a pet, etc.
And how important is location when it comes to detached single family? Is that a factor when you're analyzing a deal, or is it based upon the investor if their primary goal is more for a cash flow versus appreciation? Because that's kind of like where the fine line is. Like if you're investing in, single family residence, it's you can get a lower cap rate or a lower ROI, but if you're buying based upon speculation for the near future, you may have a higher gain in Summerlin versus going on, east, but you have a higher return, but the appreciation may not be as high.
So Las Vegas is not that big. And if you average out the appreciation across the valley, it's pretty consistent. Yeah. We've been in the low double digits for the past year, and that's across the board. Earlier in the year, the properties that appreciated the most were in the areas that one wouldn't expect. It was the northeast part of the valley. It was the east side of Vegas, because that was just where more affordable properties were. And right now, the current trends are forecasting that what's going to appreciate more is going to be the South Strip part of it. It fluctuates. It takes us 35, 40 minutes to make it from one end of the valley to the other. So really, I would analyze the investment based on the return for what it cost, because $500,000 in the east part of the valley buys something very different than it does on the very, very far west part of the valley. So what is the return? What rent are you going to get? How many of those tenants could you get? What is your pool to draw from? And that's where speculation goes. So if there was another economic shutdown, the properties that suffered the most, the ones that had the most vacancy, were actually in the most affluent areas.
Oh, really?
So all the fancy neighborhoods had 15+% vacancies, whereas the more blue-collar neighborhoods had 5% vacancies. So that's significant. The difference is the blue-collar neighborhood has to rent. They don't have choice. If you're in a luxury apartment, you can choose to downsize or downgrade your standard of living to save a little bit of money to weather the downturn. And you have that mobility. You have cash to move. A blue-collar neighborhood may not necessarily have that.
So I believe right now the median price point for a house is around $450,000. I think you get around like 1,800 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, 2-car garage. What's the average rent right now for something like that?
I believe they're right around $2,700 if I average the whole valley.
$2,700. You know, I have a 1,700 square foot, 4 bedrooms and a loft. You know how much I pay? It's only $930 a month.
When did you buy it?
Oh, I think I bought it in 2009, but I refinanced it down. I played the game, so I refinanced it down to 3.2. So it's like I literally bought that mortgage. I don't think I'm ever leaving that house with a payment like that.
I'm in the same boat.
Stuck. But the equity position is like so unbelievable. But it's like, what do I do with the money, you know?
Right. When did you buy that house?
2009.
What was the interest rate in 2009?
I think I paid about like 5.5%. But I played the game. Right. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You got to play the game. That's all it is.
Absolutely. And in 2009, 5.56% was very common.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember selling properties in 2009 and people were being like, oh, that's very high interest rate and it's going to get higher. And they didn't buy.
Yeah.
And maybe they bought 2 years ago and they got 3% rate, which is better. But they didn't pay what you paid for that house.
Exactly.
The appreciation. So it's a wash, right? You pay the rate or you lock in the value of the home today.
And that's what I like about real estate. It's just a game. Like if you understand the game, you just play the game to win. And
Absolutely.
That's all it is, right? Now I want to talk about like financing out there. What's a good type of financing? Because you can't get an FHA loan, right, for a single family residence to invest, right?
If I intend to live in it in the very beginning, yes, you could.
Okay, so you could live in the beginning, and you said what, after like 180 days or something, you could just move out and rent it out?
You could, yeah. I mean, if you're the single person example, you could purchase a 4-bedroom house like you did, and then rent it out to roommates. There's nothing that says you can't.
Oh, that's a good way to house hack, right? To get started.
And in room, I don't know if you've Googled them lately, but I've seen rooms going for like $600 a room.
I don't know if I could live with somebody. I need my own privacy.
Well, again, you have to, what is it? Pick your poison.
Yeah, exactly.
Pick the lesser of two evils.
So if I had to choose in today's market, so should I be focusing on single family residence, condos, townhomes, mobile homes, or duplexes, triplexes, or fourplex? Like where's that sweet spot, or does it even matter?
Again, it comes down to numbers.
Okay.
I think it's whatever makes sense. I have a client who loved purchasing what I thought were so expensive condominiums. He would buy condominiums at about $80,000 to $100,000.
I'll give anything to pay that right now.
But okay, so yes. But what bugged me so much was that the association fee on a condo that costs that much is about $250, $300. That's a lot. Because if it's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, going back to my earlier example, I can only rent it for the average rent. Let's say it's $1,300. $300 just came off the top for the association.
Correct.
And I don't like that. I would prefer to purchase a building and not have the association and have 4 apartments. Again, if I'm not living in it, it's just a numbers game. But those units have appreciated. He bought them in cash. They're worth, let's say, almost double today.
Yeah.
And all he pays is $300. He has no maintenance whatsoever. And it completely penciled out for him because he went at it in the mindset that he doesn't want to do anything. He doesn't want to worry about the exterior. Yeah. It's only an interior maintenance situation for him. His tenant can take advantage of all the amenities the community offers. And it was very hands-off for him. So it made 100% sense for him. I didn't personally like it, but it made sense financially for him. And he is way ahead of the game. So
the clients that you work with, right, and what you specialize in, do you analyze your clients' portfolio? And if you do you have this conversation like later on down the line by analyzing their portfolio? Hey, maybe now is a time to reposition, cash out, and let's move and scale to something bigger. Is that something you guys provide?
Absolutely. It's something we do regularly. Over just the last 5 years, individuals who've bought properties, we, will reevaluate depending on how the market's done. I mean, we had tremendous appreciation over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So many clients purchase something for $300,000. 18 months later, it's $150,000 in equity that the property has accumulated. How long before we make that equity in income?
Yeah.
Could we sell it and then do some sort of tax exchange where we take that 150 and we scale up to more units, or maybe just same type of units that we can get for less, where we can just rinse and repeat?
Now, if you're analyzing a deal, obviously your deal is going to be based upon the type of return an investor is looking for, right?
Right.
What happens if the number doesn't make sense? Do you go back in there to renegotiate a deal? And can you even get a deal in today's market? Can you negotiate with the seller? Are you seeing that right now?
Yes, you can definitely negotiate with sellers. You're not going to get the property for half price.
Okay.
There is nothing that
Oh, that doesn't exist?
No.
That's not what I heard from the news.
Oh my gosh, I had a showing earlier. This person thought a $300 price per square foot where he could make an offer for $200, and it's like, no, it's actually not like that, because the market doesn't support that. There's too much demand still to offset that. So anyway, back to the example. Yes, we would review. Like I said, there are more buildings for sale today than there were a year ago.
Yeah.
I would make the offer that I think is fair for as many buildings as possible. And whoever wants to start negotiating with us, that's where we start.
Yeah.
And we try to, when we're representing the buyer, we try to negotiate the most that we can, whether that's a price reduction, some sort of credit concession that we can then use to buy down an interest rate or apply toward improvements that we might need to do. You're hiring me to represent your best interests. So depending on the building, the seller, my client's liquidity and goals, we'll negotiate to meet those goals.
Now, I noticed a lot of these multifamily that are for sale, during the crash in 2008, 2009, I remember these guys were picking up 4 units at $80,000. And back then I didn't have money. I was just getting started. And these guys are picking it up, at auction, pretty great pricing, and I remember even at 200,000, I thought guys, you guys are overpaying, but I would give anything to pay $200,000 for, a 4-unit building. And I remember this one gentleman, he had one right off the airport. I think it's Maryland, and right off the airport.
Hacienda.
Yeah. And he was going to sell me his unit because I had the washer, the dryer. It was 3 bedrooms. It was all in the unit. And he goes, I'll sell it to you for $450. And I was like, dude, you're out of your freaking mind, dude. But now it's like, oh my God.
They're like 700 plus.
Yeah, no, I would have bought them. Like, oh my gosh. But I mean, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah, no, I agree.
So you feel that the market is going to go up at this point. You feel like we hit rock bottom?
I think the market is going to stabilize.
Okay.
And I'm talking a very, very specific market, multifamily.
Okay.
That's going to stabilize. There is still not enough inventory. Houses and everything, that's a different type of real estate. Just as multifamily is described, there isn't enough inventory. We either have all of those little 4-plex, Class C in the areas that are not as pretty, and then we have the really big fancy ones. There is very little in between.
Yeah.
So there's a need for that in-between point to be filled. We also don't even have really affordable housing, so there's a need for that to be filled. These voids in our inventory as a city have to be filled by someone, and that's where you come in as an investor, right?
Yeah.
You figure out where you want to play and start servicing those clients.
Going back to my story where a lot of these investors were buying these 4-plexes, they bought it at a great price. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I noticed a lot of these investors that are selling the property now, I feel it's a little bit high for me. The numbers just don't make sense because I'm looking for something that's going to give me at least a 12% return, which is, I know it doesn't exist, but I realize that the sellers, they bought it at such a low price point that the return on investment is like 15, 18%. For them, they're just holding tight because it doesn't matter if they sell it or not, based upon what they're asking for, because they're getting those high returns.
Absolutely. And that's something you can achieve over time with an investment that you purchased today.
Yeah.
The example you gave earlier, that building by the airport on Maryland and Hacienda. You could have purchased that for $400. Had you purchased it for $400, even if that was top of the market at that point in time, today that building is almost twice in value, and the rents are definitely doubled.
Yeah.
Right. So today, by now, you'd probably have that building almost paid off.
Yeah.
And you would be cash flowing over $5,000 on that building. 3 bedrooms go for over $1,500 per month. And I'm choosing the low end of the spectrum of rent on a 3 bedroom. So 4 units, that's $6,000.
Yeah.
And you have a building that's almost paid off and only one building is generating $6,000. You would be that much better off today had you purchased that property. But again, it's you purchase the property at any given point in time based on numbers and believe that the property is going to continue to appreciate, that rents are going to continue to increase. And then 10 years later, you're sitting much better.
Now, is there anything that we didn't cover that we need to get to? I think that's important here. What do you have?
No, I think we need to highlight the fact that you need creativity to find these potential gems, right? Because it's not just buying it. They're not sitting on the shelf and you just grab it and you're going to be rich in 10 years.
Yeah.
You have to do your math. You have to verify everything. All of your assumptions have to be backed up by some data.
Yeah.
And you make an educated decision on whether or not you want to embark on that particular investment. You need someone like us to help you do that. We have all of this information. So yeah, give us a call.
So what's the best way to get a hold of you if somebody wants to get started investing today?
Give us a call. My website is hyderealestategroup.com, and that will provide you with all of our phone numbers. I'm Catherine Hyde. I have a team. All of my team members are on my website. You can call us. If you want to receive all of this information, like in a booklet, we're producing a quarterly market update that we'll be mailing out. So send us a note, send us a message.
Well, Catherine, I just want to say thank you so much for taking your time to come on out here. I really do appreciate it. What I'm going to do is actually have a link in the description below and also in the comments. York, go ahead and put that in the comments, please. And hopefully we can bring you back on our show because there's a lot of questions I want to ask you, but we are definitely running out of time. So guys, if you guys have not had a chance to subscribe to this channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Again, I'm going to go ahead and have a link in the description below. And don't forget to check us out on Instagram. Until next time, peace.